The engine noise swallows everything else. Spotter chatter crackles through the headset, sharp and constant, while the wall blurs past at the edge of vision. There's no time to think about winning right now, only about not disappearing. The car feels wrong before anyone says a word. It's sliding backward through the field, and the driver can feel it in his hands before the spotter's voice even confirms it. The tires aren't gripping the way they should. The balance is shifting lap by lap, and somewhere in the back of his mind, the math of the championship picture is already ticking. Then, on lap 126, the one thing no chase driver can afford to hear crackles through the headset. This is Shane Van Gisbergen, and this is Richmond Raceway. Not just another Saturday night on the circuit, but a chase cutoff fight with real elimination stakes attached to every position on the track. Heading into the race, SVG sits 15th in points, inside the playoff bubble, but only barely inside it. Then qualifying delivers the first shock of the weekend. The number 97 starts 31st. For a chase contender fighting to protect a shrinking cushion, that number is uncomfortable to look at on paper. Richmond's 400 laps are usually forgiving enough for a car to recover from a rough starting spot, but something about this particular night already feels different from the start. By stage 1, there's progress. SVG climbs to 21st, but the progress isn't fast enough, and the real enemy tonight isn't the field lined up in front of him. It's the laps ticking down behind him, one after another, with no room left to waste. By stage 2, the situation gets worse instead of better. SVG is still running 21st, but now a full lap down to the leaders. In chase math, that's not simply a bad night. It's a legitimate elimination threat sitting in plain sight for anyone tracking the standings. His cushion over Ryan Preece sits around 50 points, with Austin Cindric closing in on Preece from behind as well, turning the bubble into a three-way squeeze instead of a simple two-car gap. 50 points sounds like a comfortable margin on a normal weekend, until a night like this one happens and the gap starts to feel thin lap after lap. A lap down doesn't just cost a driver track position on the scoring pylon, it costs him control of his own fate for the rest of the night. And SVG isn't only fighting Richmond's 400 laps. Around the field, multiple drivers are being mathematically eliminated in real time, the list of playoff survivors shrinking lap by lap as the night wears on toward its final stage, turning Richmond into a night of attrition as much as a night of racing. Quick note before the next turn in this story: if you're new here, this is NASCAR Insider TV, and we're closing in on 1,500 subscribers. Hitting that number helps us keep bringing you race breakdowns exactly like this one, breaking down the strategy calls other channels skip over. So if you haven't yet, consider subscribing before we get back into the rest of this Richmond story. Trackhouse Racing and crew chief Stephen Doran make a call that goes directly against conventional strategy. Instead of pitting for fresh tires like most of the field around him, they send SVG back onto the lead lap through a wave around, putting him back in position while running on tires that are already worn down as cars around him roll onto fresh rubber. It's a bet against logic on its face. Why sacrifice tire life on purpose in a race this tight? Why risk falling backward again almost immediately after just clawing forward? Why gamble everything on track position instead of raw grip heading into the closing laps? There's no guarantee attached to this decision. It's a wager that being back on the lead lap matters more than being fast on old tires. The move doesn't close the trapdoor that opened earlier in the race. It just opens a different door, and nobody watching yet knows where that door leads. SVG grinds inside the top 15, tires aging by the lap, his position fragile every time a car near him pits. Then the break arrives from a direction nobody could have predicted. Carson Hocevar's car suffers a money-shift engine failure entering Turn 1 on lap 284, sudden and violent, and it happens at the exact moment SVG is on the verge of his own pit cycle. The timing works entirely in his favor. The earlier gamble bought him position, and now chaos hands him a free pass at the perfect second in the race. The ripple effect spreads through the rest of the field. Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, and William Byron all funnel to pit road under the caution. SVG is no longer the exposed story sitting on an island by himself. He's buried safely inside a reshuffled field, with cover on every side. Over the radio, he delivers the closest thing to a victory line in the entire night. Van Gisbergen radioed to his team, "Awesome job, team. Good pit stops, good strategy, "Good points night. It's what we need." That radio call turns out to be premature relief once the final scoring comes in. The final result lands at P14. On paper, unremarkable, a finish that barely registers on a highlight reel or a stat sheet the next morning. In context, it's a survival story built on a risky call that happened to pay off at exactly the right moment. But the night doesn't end on comfort. Austin Cindric's stronger run at Richmond moves him ahead of SVG in the standings, even though SVG protected his points cushion over Preece for another week. He did almost everything right on a genuinely difficult night, and he still lost ground in the rundown when the final numbers settled after the checkered flag. The scoreboard doesn't reward effort or drama on a night like this. It only rewards final position at the checkered flag, nothing else. Around the sport that week, the reaction to the finish splits in two very different directions among fans and analysts alike. Some read the result as a masterclass in improvisation from Trackhouse under real pressure. Others read the exact same finish as a warning sign, proof that SVG's chase campaign is more fragile than his road course reputation suggests to casual fans watching from the outside. Both readings are looking at the identical result on the same night, drawing two very different conclusions from it. Nothing about this race gets resolved by the checkered flag at Richmond. Trackhouse didn't prove they have a dominant car on this type of track. They proved they can improvise under pressure when a gamble is forced on them by circumstance beyond their control. Those are not the same thing heading into the next round of the schedule. The questions this result leaves behind are the ones that actually matter heading into New Hampshire. Can SVG actually qualify well enough on ovals that these last-minute rescues stop being necessary every single week of the season? How many more times can Trackhouse manufacture an escape like this one before the math finally catches up with them on a night with no caution to save them at the right moment? With New Hampshire next on the schedule and only a shrinking number of regular season races left before the cutoff arrives, is the cushion over Ryan Preece and the rest of the bubble drivers genuinely safe, or only temporarily protected by one lucky caution flag that fell at the right time? The asymmetry sitting underneath all of this is the sharpest edge of the entire story. The chasers only need SVG to have one bad night to close the gap completely and end his run. He needs to avoid all of them between now and the cutoff race, week after week, with no more margin for a repeat of Richmond. Richmond didn't end the danger sitting over this team, it just moved that danger to the next race on the schedule. If you enjoy real NASCAR breakdowns like this one, you'll like what's coming next on this channel. Drop your take on this one down in the comments. Was this smart Trackhouse strategy under pressure or a warning sign for the rest of the chase? And share this breakdown with another NASCAR fan who needs to see exactly how close this chase battle really is heading into New Hampshire.